Today we'll be learning our first topic in Mathematics Part 2, that is Basic Concepts in Geometry. Can you recognize the picture given here? Yes, you're correct. The picture is of the pyramids of Egypt, built 3000 years before the Christian era. Have you ever imagined how did the people during those times build such huge structures? Yes, this gives us an idea that they had some knowledge of geometry and engineering. The word geometry itself suggests the origin of the subject. It is generated from the Greek words geo means earth and metria means measuring. Ancient Indians also had deep knowledge of geometry. Here are some of the mathematicians who have contributed to the subject of geometry. Now we learn the basic concept of geometry, which includes point, line and plane. We all have learned about numbers. Now, as we do not define numbers, we cannot define a point, line or a plane. Here we have depicted how does a point look like, a line look like, and a plane look like. A line and a plane are nothing but they are set of points. So when we mark points on a line, it forms a number line. This is how a number line looks like. It has the origin in the center, which is marked as 0. The right hand side has all the positive numbers known as positive integers, and the left hand side of 0 we have the negative numbers known as negative integers. Each number is separated by a distance which is equal throughout. Always a number line ends with an arrow. Now let us learn how to find out the coordinates of the points marked on a number line. Now observe the number line given below. You will find that each point represents one number on the number line. You can see A denotes number -5, B denotes number -3, C denotes number -2, O denotes number 0, T denotes 1 and E denotes 3. So here whichever number they are denoting, that is the coordinate of that alphabet. I'll repeat, whichever number the alphabet is denoting or is belonging to, that is the coordinate of the given alphabet. So here coordinate of point A is -5, coordinate of B is -3, coordinate of C is -2, coordinate of O is 0, coordinate of D is 1 and coordinate of E is 3. Now to find the distance between 2 points, we need to first know the coordinates of each of the point and subtract the smaller coordinate from the larger one. Take an example of A and B. If I ask you the distance between point A and B, okay, now I need to know the coordinates of A, that is -5, and coordinate of B, that is -3. Which is the bigger one? Yes, -3 is the bigger one. We all know that as we gradually move from 0 to the left hand side, the value goes on decreasing. So the smaller one is -5 and the larger one is -3. So -3 minus -5 is going to give me my answer. So -3 minus -5, two negatives, they become a positive. So -3 plus 5 will give me my answer, that is 2. So the distance between point A and B is 2. Let us see how is the calculation done to find the distance between 2 points in the next slide. So here we learn how to calculate the distance between the two given points. First I take the example of distance between point D and E. Here the coordinate of point D is 1 and coordinate of point E is 3. 3 is a bigger coordinate compared to 1. Therefore, to find the distance between point E and D, I'll be subtracting smaller coordinate from the bigger coordinate. Therefore, I have 3 minus 1, which is 2. Now, when we write down the distance between the 2 points, we denote it by small d bracket, the name of the 2 points whose distance you're finding. So, you can see in my third point, I've mentioned how do we denote the distance between the 2 points. So, it is d bracket ED or small l bracket ED, means length between the 2 points. Another example, we have taken point A and point C. The coordinate of point A is minus 5 and coordinate of point C is minus 2. Now minus 2 is a bigger number compared to minus 5 because we have learned that when we move towards the left hand side from 0, the value goes on decreasing gradually. Whereas when we go to the right hand side, the value goes on increasing gradually. So here the distance between A and C will be bigger coordinate minus smaller. So we have minus 2 minus bracket minus 5. We open the bracket, two negatives become a positive, which gives me 3. Therefore, my distance between point A and C, that is L bracket AC, is nothing but 3. So here we have an example of 3 collinear points, P, Q and R. We have 3 possibilities when we have 3 collinear points, the way they are placed or the sequence. First, you can see figure 1 is PRQ, figure 2 is PQR and figure 3 is RPQ. Now in figure 1, if the distance between PR plus the distance between RQ is equal to PQ, then it is said that point R is in between P and Q. And this betweenness is shown as P dash R dash Q. This tells us that P falls first, followed by R and then Q. So R is falling between P and Q. Same if I take figure 2. When I write down the betweenness, will be written as P dash Q dash R. And for figure 3, it will be written as R dash P dash Q. So it is nothing but the sequence in which the points are placed. And how do you write it? So this is how you use a dash in between to write their sequence. Okay. Now let us learn how to find the correct sequence of collinear points when distance between them is given. In this slide, we saw that if already a picture is given to me of a line with collinear points, how I write the betweenness. But if it's reverse, the other way around, if they tell me the betweenness and I have to find the distance between them, then how should we solve it? We'll see that in the next slide. So we have our first example in which they have given us 3 points. They have given the distance between the points. We have to find out their sequence. Okay, we have ABC given to us. Now distance between A and B is 5, distance between B and C is 11 and distance between A and C is 6. Now you can see there are 3 values given to us. Between the 3 values there are 2 values which are smaller ones. So whenever we have such kind of sum, we first add the 2 smaller values. Okay. Now when we add the 2 values, it becomes 11. Yes. Now if you can recollect from our earlier slide, we had discussed when you add the 2 distances between different set of points, they together form a group of collinear points. So I'll repeat. So here AB plus AC is giving me what? 11, which is nothing but my value of BC. So now can you guess the sequence of the alphabets? Yes, correct. So my sequence is B dash A dash C, means my A is common in between. Okay, so now we'll see the calculation for this. Look at the second example. We have 3 points D, E, F. Distance between point D and E is 5. Distance between E and F is 8 and D and F is 6. Find out which of the point is between the other two and if the points are non-collinear. If yes, state so. So our solution, as I told you in the first question also, first example, we always take the distances which are the smaller ones and we add them up and we check if they are equal to the largest distance between the 2 points given to us. So here we have the smaller distances given is 5 and 6. So if I check, I add 5 and 6, I get 11, which is not my larger distance given to me. So this is one possibility which I have checked. If you want to reassure, you can check the other combinations also. Like I will check DE plus EF, which is 5 plus 8, which is 13. So even that is not my third side. Then next is EF and TF, which is 8 plus 6, which is 14, which also doesn't give me any clear picture, which means that the 3 points are not collinear. So doesn't mean that anytime whenever they give you 3 points, they will be collinear. There can be cases where you will not conclude to any answer and therefore they are non-collinear. We start with our practice set 1.1, which is on page number 5 of your textbook. We start with the first question. Find the distance with the help of number line given below. It's the exact same page scanned from your textbook. So first question, they have asked us to find the distance between B and E. Now look at the coordinates of B first. It is 2 and coordinate of E is 5. Which is the bigger one? Yes, you're correct. The coordinate of E is the bigger one. So as I had told you in the earlier slides, coordinate of E minus the coordinate of B, which is 5 minus 2, which gives me 3. So you're going to solve all these sums in your notebook. Okay, I'll be solving one or two of them in the next slide so that you know what steps are required or expected from you. Okay, next question 2. If the coordinates of axis of A is x and that of B is y, find the distance between A and B. So they have given us here the value of x and y. Okay, and we have to find the distance. So don't get confused by looking at x and y. These are just the values of the coordinates. So instead of giving a number line, they can also give you coordinates like this in the form of x and y. Okay, so here it just means that whatever value of x is given, that is the coordinate of A, and whatever value of B is given, that is the coordinate of B. So even here, the first question, I'll just discuss the first question. Coordinate of A is 1 and coordinate of B is 7. So now which is the bigger coordinate? Coordinate of B. So we know that we subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. So 7 minus 1 gives me 6. So the distance between point A and B is 6. The remaining sums you will do in your notebook, and few of them I'll be displaying in the next slide so that you get an idea what steps are required. So here we have some solved questions of your practice set 1.1. So I've solved question 1, from that I've solved sub question number 2 and 7. You can see here the steps which we are supposed to follow. First you find the coordinates looking at the number line given in your textbook. Then you compare them and then you do the calculation. Calculation is you subtract the smaller coordinate from the bigger coordinate. Then whatever is your answer is your distance between the two given points. Okay, this is how we have solved first two questions of main question 1. Now the second question. Here they have given us x and y as the coordinates of point A and B, and for every sum the value of x and y is changing. So I have solved three different types of questions in it. First I have taken question 2 where x is 6 and y is minus 2. Again the steps are similar to question 1. The only difference here is they have given us coordinates as x and y, so please do not get confused. Okay, you compare again the coordinates, you subtract them and you get your answer. So three solved examples are given to you. You are supposed to copy this in your fair maths notebooks, and the remaining questions of question 1 and 2 you are supposed to solve on your own in your notebook, and when the school reopens, I'll be going through your solution. Okay. We start with our practice set 1.1, which is on page number 5 of your textbook. We start with the first question. Find the distance with the help of number line given below. It's the exact same page scanned from your textbook. So first question, they have asked us to find the distance between B and E. Now look at the coordinates of B first. It is 2 and coordinate of E is 5. Which is the bigger one? Yes, you're correct. The coordinate of E is the bigger one. So as I had told you in the earlier slides, coordinate of E minus the coordinate of B, which is 5 minus 2, which gives me 3. So you're going to solve all these sums in your notebook. Okay, I'll be solving one or two of them in the next slide so that you know what steps are required or expected from you. Okay, next question 2. if the coordinates of axis of A is x and that of B is y, find the distance between A and B. So they have given us here the value of x and y, okay, and we have to find the distance. So don't get confused by looking at x and y. These are just the values of the coordinates. So instead of giving a number line, they can also give you coordinates like this in the form of x and y. Okay. So here it just means that whatever value of x is given, that is the coordinate of A, and whatever value of B is given, that is the coordinate of B. So even here, the first question, I'll just discuss the first question. Coordinate of A is 1 and coordinate of B is 7. So now which is the bigger coordinate? Coordinate of B. So we know that we subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. So 7 minus 1 gives me 6. So the distance between point A and B is 6. The remaining sums you will do in your notebook, and few of them I'll be displaying in the next slide so that you get an idea what steps are required. Now we continue with our practice set 1.1 with question number 3. Here they've already given us distance between the points and we have to find out or prove whether the points are collinear or non-collinear. We start with question number 3, second one. They have given us distance between RS is 8, ST is 6 and RT is 4. Now as I had told you in the earlier slide, we always combine the smaller distances first. So we have distance ST plus distance RT, which is 6 plus 4, which is 10. Now I have made a star and given a small note for you, that is always we check by adding the smaller distances. So you will always remember this. Then we compare it with the longer distance, that is distance between RS is 8. So here they don't match and therefore the points are not collinear, they are non-collinear. Then question 3. Here we have 3 points A, B, C given. Distance between AB is 16, CA is 9 and BC is 7. Now again we compare by adding the smaller distances. So here we have the smaller distance, that is 7 and 9. So CA plus BC gives 7 plus 9, which is 16. Now we compare it with the larger distance, that is AB. So yes, it is same, and therefore when we look at the names of the segments which are formed by joining the points. So we have your point C, which is common in both CA and BC. Therefore it suggests that C is in between the 2 points, and therefore the sequence is as follows: A dash C dash B. This is how we represent collinear points. We write them down. The last question, that is fifth one. Distance between XY is given 16 and distance between YZ is 7 and distance between XZ is 8. Again we add up the smaller values, that is 7 and 8, and we get 15, which is equal to the larger distance given to us. And therefore we conclude that the 3 points are collinear. But what is the sequence? To know the sequence, we look at the names of the given segments which are formed by joining the points. So we see that Z is common in both YZ and XZ. Means Z is somewhere in between, forming a link between X and Y, and therefore the sequence is X dash Z dash Y. Now as in the earlier slide also, the remaining sums you will be solving on your own. If you have any doubts, it will be clarified when we come back to school. Okay. Now we start with question 4. They have given us here 3 points ABC such that distance between AC is 10, distance between CB is 8. We have to find the distance between AB and we have to consider all possibilities. Now what is the meaning of considering all possibilities? We'll see that. Now in first case, okay, first possibility, first look at AC and CB. Which point is common here? Yes, point C, which means that C is in between A and B. Therefore, The distance between A and B will be addition of AC and CB. Therefore, we get 10 plus 8, which is 18. So this is the first possible answer. Second possibility. Now, we can also have the arrangement of C in such a way that AB, A, B and C. Can you see here I have underlined it with a red pen. So here, if C is placed like this at the extreme end, AC given is 10 and CB is 8. So we subtract them to get our distance between AB, which is 2. So this is our second possibility. Therefore, the answer can either be 18 or 2. So you have to be very vigilant and see the placing of the points and try out all the combinations to get the different possibilities. Okay. Now in question 6, they have asked us to draw the collinear points on a line and show their placing and then find the distance. So here we have question 2 where they have given us already the sequence RST and they have given ST is 3.7, RS is 2.5 and you have to find the distance between RT. So as per the sequence, I'll first draw a line. I'll mark 3 points. I know at the starting we have R and the other end I have T. So I have drawn the line, I have written R and T. Now ST is 3.7 and RS is 2.5. So when I mark the point, I'll make sure that ST looks bigger than RS. Okay, this distance need not be exactly as per the measurement on the scale. It's just a reference figure. So you can just draw it as per your discretion. Okay, not too big, not too small diagram. Okay, mark the distance. Now they have told us find RT. Can you locate RT? Yes. So we have to find the total distance. Therefore, RT is nothing but RS plus ST, which is 2.5 plus 3.7, which is 6.2. Similar type, we have the next question. They have given us 3 points X, Y, Z. They have given us distance between X, Z is 3 root 7 and distance between X, Y is root 7. Then find the length between Y, Z. Now here, do not get confused by looking at the root. Okay, it's just simple calculation. You'll see it further. Again, like the earlier sum, we'll draw the segment. We'll mark the 3 points. Now first you always begin marking the end points. Now as per the given data in the question, X and Z, I'll mark them at the two ends. Now they have given me XZ is 3 root 7 and XY is root 7. Means root 7 is smaller than 3 root 7. So when I mark my Y, I'll mark it in such a way that the distance between X, Y is small and YZ is larger. Now they've asked me the distance between YZ. Can you see YZ on the figure which I've drawn? Yes. So YZ is nothing but by subtracting XY from XZ, that is 3 root 7 minus root 7. Now we have learned this in our in algebra earlier. We take out the common number. So we have root 7. It's a common factor, so I'll remove it. So in the bracket I have 3 minus 1. So my answer is 2 root 7. This is my final distance between YZ. So never ever get confused or scared looking at the root sign. Just start solving the sum and you will realize it is just as simple as the other sums. It's only a trick used to scare you or to challenge you. Okay. So now we are done with our exercise 1.1. We move forward with our chapter. We have here 3 figures given which represent some basic structure or basic terms involved in geometry. The first one, you can see there are 2 points marked A and B. Now whenever you have any 2 points marked like this showing their union, the distance between them is known as a segment. Then look at the second figure. We have one end with a point and the other one with the arrow. Here this is known as a ray. Point M will be known as the end point of the ray. So from there the ray originates. Okay. Third one, PQ. You can see here both the ends have an arrow. Now it means that a line can be extended from both the sides, in both the directions. So this third figure is known as a line. So if they ask you to draw a segment, please make sure that you draw 2 points at the 2 ends. When they ask you to draw a ray originating from point M or A or B, you always draw that point, that end with a point and the other end with the arrow, because that is the end point from where the arrow is originating or beginning. And the third one, if they ask you to draw a line, whatever name, AB, PQ, XY, you will always draw a line ending in 2 arrows. How we draw for a number line similarly. Now we know what are lines, what are segments, what are rays. Now we see what are congruent lines. Now here you can see we have segment AB and segment CD. Both of them measure 10 centimeters. Whenever they give you lines of same length or same measurement, they are said to be congruent. So here the first figure shows us congruent lines. Now in the second figure you can see here there are 2 congruent lines given to you and there are 2 ticks which are used. Now this is a symbol used to indicate that the 2 lines which have the same ticks are congruent. Okay. Now there are some properties of congruent lines which we are going to learn. The first one is reflexivity, second is symmetry, and third is transitivity. Let us see the first property of congruent lines, that is reflexivity. Look at figure 1. Here we have 2 congruent lines given to us, that is segment AB and segment CD. So the property of reflexivity states that segment AB is congruent to segment AB, means that particular segment will be congruent to itself. Second property is of symmetry. It states that if segment AB is congruent to CD, then segment CD is also congruent to segment AB. We all know that it is just written the other way around. Both of the segments are of same measurements and hence they are congruent whether you write AB first or you write CD first. So both of them will be congruent to each other. So they are symmetric. Okay. Therefore the word symmetry is used. Then we have the third one, that is transitivity. Now here the word transitivity tells us something is being transferred. So here we have an example given referring to our figure 1. Segment AB is congruent to CD. I'll repeat, segment AB is congruent to CD and segment CD is congruent to EF, which is one more segment which is not given here, but we are assuming that CD is congruent to a third segment which is EF. Therefore, we can directly state that segment AB will also be congruent to segment EF. This is known as the property of transitivity. Now look at figure 3. Here we have a segment given AB. It has point M in the center. Now here the point M is placed in such a way that it divides segment AB into equal halves. And therefore we have those 2 ticks which are marked on both the sides of M. That is marking on segment AM and MB, which states that segment AM is congruent to segment BM. Therefore, it proves that a midpoint of a segment always divides a segment in 2 equal halves. So here, this point M is nothing but the midpoint of a given segment. Now, what is comparison of segments? Look at the first figure given here. We have segment AB and CD. Segment AB is longer compared to segment CD, and this is what is comparison of segments. So we are just comparing the length, and looking at the figure itself, we know which segment is a longer one. So here we have comparison of segments depending on the length of the figure 2. We have here uh, a figure which shows two segments, or you can say even two lines which are meeting, or it also shows rays which are meeting at a point. So here, whenever we have a ray, two rays, or maybe a ray and a segment, or two segments meeting at a point forming a 90-degree angle. The symbol here, can you see the symbol? That is a symbol for a 90-degree angle. Hence, such kind of segments or rays are said to be perpendicular to each other since they are forming a 90-degree angle. Now we have something known as the distance of a point from a line. You can see here in figure 3, we have segment CD which is perpendicular to segment AB. Now here, the distance between point C and point D is nothing but the distance of the point C from the line, that is AB. So here, whenever you have any segment perpendicular to a line, the distance between the point outside the segment and the point on the segment is known as the distance of a point from a line. So here, segment CD is the distance of point C from line AB, and point D is called the foot of the perpendicular. You can see the perpendicular is meeting segment AB on point D, hence point D is known as the foot of the perpendicular. Now if length of CD is A, then the point C is at a distance of A from line AB. Now we start with our practice set 1.2. Let us begin with the first question. The following table shows points on a number line and their coordinates. Decide whether the pair of segments given below table are congruent or not. So remember, in the first exercise we had learned how to find the distance between 2 points given on a number line. So first we start solving this by drawing a number line for our reference. Okay. Then we will calculate the distance between each of the segment which is asked here. Look at the first one, segment DE and segment AB. Okay, here we will first find the distance between DE and AB. Remember, we had learned in our first exercise, we always subtract the smaller coordinate from the larger coordinate and we get our distance. The calculation is shown in the next slide. So we will have a look at this slide and then we'll come back to our next questions. We'll start with question 3. Point P is the midpoint of segment CD. If CP is 2.5, find CD. So your point P is the midpoint of CD, means point P is dividing CD into two equal halves. Now CP is already given to us, means half of segment CD is given to us. Therefore, the measurement of CD will be, yes, CP plus PD, which is 2.5 plus 2.5, which gives me 5. Correct. Next one. Here they have given us segment AB, which is 5 cm, and BP is 2 cm, and AP is 3.4 cm. Compare the segments. As simple as that, how we compare numbers. Similarly, we are going to compare them on the basis of their length. So here, which is the longest one? AB. Then we have AP, which is 3.4 cm, and the shortest one is BP, which is 2 cm. So you're going to just use the greater than sign and you're going to write them down. Okay, the answer is shown in the next slide. So here we have drawn a number line for our reference. We have marked the coordinates given to us. They have told us to first find if DE is congruent to AB. So I have first found out the distance between segment DE and segment AB. So DE, look at the points D and E. You can see the coordinates 9 and -7. So greater minus the smaller. So we get our answer, which is 16. Similarly, we get our answer for AB, which is 8. We compare the values and they are not congruent. Same we solve for the third sub question, BE and AD. The distance between BE comes to 4 and AD also comes to 4, and therefore they are congruent. This sign over here is the congruent sign. And when the segments are not congruent, you just use the same sign with a strike on it. We'll start with question 3. Point P is the midpoint of segment CD. If CP is 2.5, find CD. So your point P is the midpoint of CD, means point P is dividing CD into two equal halves. Now CP is already given to us, means half of segment CD is given to us. Therefore, the measurement of CD will be, yes, CP plus PD, which is 2.5 plus 2.5, which gives me 5. Correct. Next one. Here they have given us segment AB, which is 5 cm, and BP is 2 cm, and AP is 3.4 cm. Compare the segments. As simple as that, how we compare numbers. Similarly, we are going to compare them on the basis of their length. So here, which is the longest one? AB. Then we have AP, which is 3.4 cm, and the shortest one is BP, which is 2 cm. So you're going to just use the greater than sign and you're going to write them down. Okay. The answer is shown in the next slide. Okay, let us start with question 5 of set 1.2. Here they have given us figure 1.13. You can refer the earlier slide for the figure. They have given us point T, S, R, P, Q. Based on this figure, they have asked us few questions which we are going to solve now. Question 1. Write the name of the ray opposite to ray RP. Now opposite means it will be starting from R. The endpoint will be same, but it will be in the opposite direction, moving in the opposite direction. So here rays opposite to RP will be RS and RT. Next, write the intersection set of ray PQ and RP. Intersection means here the answer which I write will be common in both the given rays. So the answer is ray PQ. We have learned intersection union in sets, right? Same thing we are applying here. Then next one, write the union set of ray PQ and QR. Union means we combine them but we do not include the same element. Here it will be same ray twice. So my answer is ray QR. You can see for every answer I have written a bracket so that you understand the reason behind my answer. Question 4. State the rays of which segment QR is a subset. Now subset means it is a part of that ray. So my answer is ray QR and ray RQ. Question 5. Write the pair of opposite rays with common endpoint R. So endpoint R means starting from R, and opposite rays means moving in the opposite direction. So my answer is ray RT and ray RQ. This is the first pair. And next is ray SR and ray RP. Next one. Sixth question. Write any two rays with common endpoint S. So the rays which are starting from S. So we have ray ST and ray SR. Next one. Seventh one, point S. So we have here write the intersection set of ray SP and SD. My answer is point S. Now why point S? Because ray SP and SD have only one common point in between. Now when you talk about intersection, you can also have a ray in between, you can have a line, you can have a segment, but here we have a point, that is point S. Now we solve the next question, question 6. Before that, just make one change in question 5. Fifth one, they have asked us write the pair of rays which have common endpoint R. The first pair is ray RT and ray RQ, and the next one, second one is ray RS and ray RP. Just make that correction, it is ray RS, not SR. Yes, we move to question 6. They have given us a number line with few points onto it, and based on this we have some questions. So you can refer to the earlier slide for the same question. So they have asked us, state the points which are equidistant from point B. Equidistance means they have same distance from point B. So we have point A and point C. Then we have point P and we have point D. That's it. Then question 2. Write a pair of points equidistant from point Q. Similar to earlier question, but here it is point Q. So my answer is point R and point P, and point U and point L. Next, question 3. Distance UV. So when we calculate a distance, we see the coordinates, we write the coordinates, we write the bigger one minus the smaller one, and we get our answer. So here distance between UV is 10. Similarly, we calculate the distance between PC, which is 4 minus 2, which is 4 plus 2 gives me 6. Next, distance between VB. Just try to locate the points and then see their coordinates and then calculate. So here my distance is 3. And the last one, distance between UL. So minus 3 minus 5 gives me minus 3 plus 5, which is 2.
Conditional statements and converse. Let's learn. The statements which can be written in the if-then form are called conditional statements. The part of the statement following if is called the antecedent, and the part following then is called the consequent. For example, consider the statement: the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular bisectors of each other. The statement can be written in the conditional form as: if the given quadrilateral is a rhombus, then its diagonals are perpendicular bisectors of each other. If the antecedent and consequent in a given conditional statement are interchanged, the resulting statement is called the converse of the given statement. If a conditional statement is true, its converse is not necessarily true. Study the following examples. Conditional statement. If a quadrilateral is a rhombus, then its diagonals are perpendicular bisectors of each other. Converse. If the diagonals of a quadrilateral are perpendicular bisectors of each other, then it is a rhombus. In the above example, the statement and its converse are true. Now, consider the following example. Conditional statement. If a number is a prime number, then it is even or odd. Converse. If a number is even or odd, then it is a prime number. In this example, the statement is true, but its converse is false. Proofs. Let's learn. We have studied many properties of angles, triangles, and quadrilaterals through activities. In this standard, we are going to look at the subject of geometry with a different point of view, which was originated by the Greek mathematician Euclid, who lived in the 3rd century before Christian era. He gathered the knowledge of geometry prevailing at his time and streamlined it. He took for granted some self-evident geometrical statements which were accepted by all and called them postulates. He showed that on the basis of the postulates, some more properties can be proved logically. Properties proved logically are called theorems. Some of Euclid's postulates are given below. 1. There are infinite lines passing through a point. 2. There is one and only one line passing through 2 points. 3. A circle of given radius can be drawn taking any point as its center. 4. All right angles are congruent with each other. 5. If two interior angles formed on one side of a transversal of two lines add up to less than 2 right angles, then the lines produced in that direction intersect each other. We have verified some of these postulates through activities. A property is supposed to be true if it can be proved logically. It is then called a theorem. The logical argument made to prove a theorem is called its proof. When we are going to prove that a conditional statement is true, its antecedent is called given part, and the consequent is called the part to be proved. There are 2 types of proofs, direct and indirect. Let us give a direct proof of the property of angles made by 2 intersecting lines. Theorem. The opposite angles formed by 2 intersecting lines are of equal measures. Given line AB and line CD intersect at point O such that A dash O dash B and C dash O dash D. To prove: 1. Angle AOC is equal to angle BOD. 2. Angle BOC is equal to angle AOD. Proof: angle AOC plus angle BOC is equal to 180 degrees. Let us mark this as statement 1. By angles in linear pair, angle BOC plus angle BOD is equal to 180 degrees. Let us mark this as statement 2 by angles in linear pair. Angle AOC plus angle BOC is equal to angle BOC plus angle BOD from statement 1 and 2. Angle AOC is equal to angle BOD, that is, by eliminating angle BOC. Similarly, it can be proved that angle BOC is equal to angle AOD. Indirect proof. This type of proof starts with an assumption that the consequence is false. Using it and the properties accepted earlier, we start arguing step by step and reach a conclusion. The conclusion is contradictory with the antecedent or a property which is already accepted. Hence, the assumption that the consequent is false goes wrong. So, it is accepted that the consequent is true. Study the following example. Statement: a prime number greater than 2 is odd. Conditional statement: if P is a prime number greater than 2, then it is odd. Given P is a prime number greater than 2, that is, 1 and P are the only divisors of P. To prove P is an odd number. Proof: let us suppose that P is not an odd number. So, P is an even number. Therefore, a divisor of P is 2. Let us mark this as statement 1. But it is given that P is a prime number greater than 2. Given, therefore, 1 and P are the only divisors of P. Let us mark this as statement 2. Statements 1 and 2 are contradictory. Therefore, the assumption that P is not odd is false. This proves that a prime number greater than 2 is odd. Practice set 1.3.
We start with our practice set 1.3. Write the following statements in if-then form. So we have seen the earlier video which explains how to write if and then statements without changing the meaning of the statement. So first one, the opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. So when I convert it to if and then, it will be if a quadrilateral. We know parallelogram is a quadrilateral. Yes. So if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the opposite sides of that quadrilateral are congruent. Understanding? Okay, next one. The diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. Again, rectangle is a quadrilateral, so I'll start. If a quadrilateral is a rectangle, then its diagonals are congruent. Okay. Third one. In an isosceles triangle, the segment joining the vertex and the midpoint of the base is perpendicular to the base. So, I'll again start with if. If a triangle is an isosceles triangle, then the segment joining vertex of the triangle and the midpoint of the base is perpendicular to the base. So you have to just reframe the statement, but make sure the meaning is not changing. Okay. Let us continue further with question 2. Here we have to write converse of the following statements. Means the opposite. But the meaning again has to be same. Question 1. The alternate angles formed by two parallel lines and their transversal are congruent. So if alternate, answer will be if alternate angles made by two lines and its transversal are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So try to understand here what they have given us earlier, we are converting it into then. So earlier they had given us the lines are parallel and therefore the angles are congruent. Correct? Here we are writing reverse. If the alternate angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So these are converse statements. Second one, if a pair of interior angles made by transversal of two lines are supplementary, then the lines are parallel. Again I will change. If two parallel lines are intersected by a transversal, the interior angles so formed are supplementary. Understanding? So whatever they give us in the question, we are just conversing it. We are writing it in an other format, reversing it. The meaning is still same. Last one, the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. So I'll write it as, if the diagonals of a quadrilateral are congruent, then the quadrilateral is a rectangle. I hope everybody has understood this. Now you will write this in your notebooks. If you have any doubts when we get back to school, those doubts will be clarified. Okay.